All right, hello everybody, and welcome to my channel. My name is Sincerely George, and today I am going to tell you the 6 reasons I am crazy about XRP. If you don't already know it, I think XRP is going to revolutionize the world by enabling value or money to move at the speed of internet, and I believe XRP and Ripple are at the forefront of a new way of life for the global community. So let me introduce myself. My name is Sincerely George. I think I said that earlier. And so please like and subscribe if you're enjoying the content that I'm creating. It really helps me. I'm a new content creator and new out here on YouTube. I am also on Twitter, so you can follow me if you have any questions. Definitely reach out to me. You can send me a message or just jump into the discussion. There's tons of people that are in the XRP community on Twitter, and they are available to answer your questions, as am I. So without further ado, let's get this party on the road. So as I was mentioning, I think there's a technological revolution occurring right now. And in actuality, I actually think it got started when it got started before this, but it really got started when we all started carrying around cell phones in our pocket. I had the opportunity to look at this when I first had my Palm Pre, and in all actuality, that is when it was when I had my Palm Pre, right around that period. I've been into techno gadgets for such a long time that I first read this book, The World is Flat by Thomas Friedman, and it enthralled me. It changed the way that I looked at the way that I worked. I've worked in software for an extended period, and The World is Flat by Thomas Friedman made me look at what was going on globally in a completely different way. It transformed the way I think about things, and I really think, even though it's an older book, I think it's something worth reading even today. And it was updated. I read the updated version as well, but I think it's something that's really worth reading, because what Thomas Friedman was talking about is Thomas Friedman believes the world is flat in the sense that the competitive playing field between industry and emerging market countries is leveling, and that the individual entrepreneur, as well as companies, both large and small, are becoming part of a large, complex global supply chain extending across oceans. And this other quote I want to pull out here: in the world is flat, when Thomas Friedman means when he says that the world is becoming flat, the global competitive field was being leveled. Friedman says there was really that what has really driven what he is calling as globalization 3.0, this is globalization that is caused by computer software. And in computer software, we talk about, software and the evolution of software and the computing power, do doubling every 18 months. And when you think about that, at the speed at which we're able to evolve technologies, this becomes big, right? Where we 10 years ago, you didn't need to have a cell phone. Today in 2019, if you don't have a cell phone, people are like, what do you mean you don't have a cell phone? Are you retired? Do you live at home? People take a sabbatical from their cell phone, but it's sort of an expectation that everybody has a cell phone and that you're reachable at all times, and that business happens 24/7. So in a world where things happen 24/7, that means that the systems that have served us in the past also have to change. And when I read Thomas Friedman's book, it really made me jump into trying to understand the entire global supply chain. I actually stepped into more of working with distributed teams just so I could better understand what was happening on the other side of the globe and see the 24-hour production clock and be in the middle of it. So it really this book impacted me. It changed my career, and really changed the way I think about things and the way things are evolving today, and what I expect out of countries around the globe. I do not, one of the quotes that's my favorite out of Thomas Friedman's book is that nobody is racing to be number two, right? Everybody is racing for first place. So I want you to keep that in mind as we continue down this path of looking at XRP, because when I look at XRP and what its goals are, this concept becomes really big because we're leveling the playing field. It becomes fairer for everybody, and everybody has access to the same technology. Yeah, Some countries have access to more, but at the same time, the other countries are developing their own. They're not dependent on the former superpowers of the world to provide them with the technology. They're able to create it themselves. Okay. So that's where I think the world is flat is key. I don't know how I got there, but back over here, back to Thomas Friedman. So I want to look at another book. And this is a book, I'm just showing this picture from this book, Hooked. And if you have been part of any of my live streams, you've probably heard me speak about the fact that, in software development, in app development, and I was an app developer for a number of years, but in app development, the idea is to get people constantly coming back to your app. There are so many apps. Every time you want an app, you go out there and you're like, yeah, an app to take pictures, an app to crop pictures, an app to map things, an app to take notes, right? And you have a laundry list of app opportunities. So in developing an app, you want it to be easy for the user to use, and you want there to be a way to constantly bring them back to their app, back to your app. So if you just take a second and think about your own phone, how many apps do you have on your phone? Just take a wild guess, right? Most people have 20 to 30 apps on their phone, if not more. Okay. But if you really think about it, you really only use maybe 5, 10 of them on a weekly basis, right? Most of us use a very, very small set of apps, and those are the ones that get all of our attention. Those are the ones that we're hooked into, and those are the ones that have really done a good job of utilizing this hook canvas. So how it works is that you have an internal trigger, something that drives you to actually want to use the application. Then once you have that, then you have an external trigger, something that says, okay, this is going to be good for me. It triggers, and then within the application, what is the smallest action that can be that can be used to create an anticipation of reward? So what would be reward? Reward would be a like gratitude, a like, somebody tagging you on something. These are little pieces of social reward that give us a feeling of, we belong. This is good for me. It lets off chemicals in the brain. In addition to that, you have variable rewards. Variable rewards really tie to things that you don't get all the time, but you need that hook, that bing, bing. Oh, I wonder what that was. Okay, let me check and see what message I just got on my phone. Bing, somebody's calling, right? Bing, somebody liked this. Okay, let me go find out what it is. And that's why when the alert goes off on your phone, a lot of people will immediately reach for their phone. Excuse me. Sorry about that. Is because they're looking for the variable reward. It is the reward that's fulfilling yet leaves the user wanting more. So then they invest more into the application in hopes of getting more rewards. And this is the hook. It's constant, because then you go back to an internal trigger. What do you want? You want acceptance, or you want to know what's going on. So back and forth, back and forth. And I need to cough, and I don't know how to pause my video, so I apologize. So I believe in the 80-20 principle as well. And 20% what I'm doing that gets me 80% value is videoing. The editing and figuring out the editing is not my top priority yet. It's creating good graphics to help you understand what I'm developing. So let's get back to it. So anyways, I just wanted you guys to understand this, because when we think about mobile technology, when we think about computer technology, when we think about the way that we interact with the organizations around us that are utilizing applications to interact with us, you have to remember these are characteristics that are built into those applications. So if you don't, that's all you have to understand about this, is that there is a pattern. There is something that you're trying to build in, because if there were no notifications, you might not come back to the app. Okay, so let's move on. I have one more little piece that I want to point to, and this comes to us from Malcolm Gladwell, and it's his book, The Tipping Point. And these are all three good books, right? Hooked by I always forget his name, so let me reopen that closed tab. So Hooked, How to Build Habit Forming Products by Nir Il. His book is fantastic. I bought it. I heard him speak, and then I bought it before it was available. Very, very good book to read. I recommend reading it. Um, so here, Malcolm Gladwell has another book, which I think is really critical for sort of understand, like these are three foundational thoughts that I think are leading us towards that really lead up to my 6 points. But in trying to help you understand or get inside my brain as to, well, why the points that she's talking about, I wanted to introduce you to these. So Malcolm Gladwell defines the tipping point as the moment of critical mass, the threshold, the boiling point. This book seeks to explain and describe the mysterious psychological changes that mark everyday life. As Gladwell states, ideas and products and messages and behaviors spread like viruses do. So, the whole idea is that something that is in early adoption, a lot of people aren't really paying attention, but all of a sudden, once it gets to a certain tipping point, it it's completely out of control, and everybody's using it, everybody wants to be on it. And if you look at Facebook, in the early years of Facebook, it was originally only for university students. Then when those university students started graduating, then they were allowed to take it outside of the university, and then their friends wanted to get onto it, and now parents and grandparents, and those kids are gone, right? But the masses are now on Facebook. So it hit a tipping point, and then everybody had to be on it. And now we're going through, an attrition point, but the tipping point is when everybody feels that they need to be there. So one last introductory piece, because I want to make sure we're all on the same page before I continue. So what is XRP? Because I'm about to go now zinging through the 6 reasons I am crazy about XRP. So XRP is the fastest and most scalable digital asset. Companies like Ripple, R3, Coil are building solutions that leverage the power and speed of the XRP network to enable affordable real-time value transfer. And value, like I was mentioning earlier, you can think of that as money, right? That money, gold, automobiles, like anything of value, you can think of being digitized and represented in a digital format. So if you live in the United States, you know that you can get your insurance policy on your phone. No longer do you have to have it sitting in your car. So that's a digital version of the insurance policy. The insurance policy can still be printed on paper, but it's digitized, and you can actually show it to anybody that needs access to it by using your phone. Okay. So when I talk about digitizing value, it's the same thing. Okay, you're digitizing money, and a lot of us are already using digital money today. If your check is auto deposited, it is digitized. That's digital money. If you use a credit card or a debit card to do 90% of your transactions, you're using digital money for 90% of your life. It's only when you're using cash, right, hard currency, that you are actually not using digital money. Okay, so that's key because XRP is a digital asset. It's not a currency that was created by a government, but it allows value transfer, and it enables speedy transfer of value around the globe. I can send XRP to you in seconds, whereas that is something that you can't really do in the traditional system. Okay. So the XRP ledger lets people swap and exchange things of values. Like I was saying, USD or money, gold, airline miles, etc. But transactions settle faster on the XRP ledger with XRP. So what I mean there, right, oftentimes, even though it looks to you and me as the consumers that the transaction is done, we swipe our card, and the credit card reader reads for a couple seconds and it says, okay, you're good to go. And it seems to us, because it even shows up in our bank account, that everything is settled. But all that has happened is that a message has been stating that, hey, this is the money that I'm putting on hold for this account. The transaction still needs to settle. And that's why oftentimes in your bank account, it'll be impending for a couple of days because it didn't settle immediately. Okay. So one last point, XRP is the native currency of the XRP ledger. So let's dig into the XRP ledger a little bit. The XRP ledger, and I'm currently looking at the developer portal, which you can access through the Ripple site if you're interested in going deeper into this. But the XRP Ledger Overview, it just helps us understand that the XRP Ledger is a decentralized cryptographic ledger powered by a network of peer-to-peer servers. The XRP ledger is the home of XRP, a digital asset designed to bridge the many different currencies in use worldwide. Ripple stewards the development of the XRP ledger and advances XRP as a key contribution to the Internet of Value, a world in which money moves the way information does today. So information today moves very quickly, right? I send you an email, it's there in seconds. And the goal is to have money move at that same speed. Okay, so that's what we're trying to say here. Additionally, that's what they're trying to say here. I wish I could have written this. This is so well written. That's why I'm reading it. But additionally, another concept that I want you to understand is that it's peer to peer and it's decentralized. And so, what that means is that there's not one person holding the keys to the kingdom. I have the ledger. I know who's allowed in and who's allowed out. I'm the only person that knows that information. No, instead, everybody knows that information. It's distributed across many people. So if one person, decides that they want to opt out and they're no longer going to participate, they can't create the fault for the entire system because everybody has the information. They can't hold it against anybody. So I hope that makes sense. I don't want to spend too much time on that. I'm sure in other videos I'll go into it a lot deeper, but the XRP ledger is distributed and it is a decentralized peer-to-peer system that allows for value transfer. And the goal is to allow that value to transfer at the speed of information. Okay, so let's keep moving on. So we finally made it to my 6 reasons. So I need to scroll down here because I have so actually the first one, the one that I was just talking about, that it's decentralized and it's fast. I think that the fact that it's peer to peer, to me, this is really important because the ability for me to transact with you to say, hey, I want to send you this money, and we don't operate with the same banks. You might be in a different country, and I don't have to wait until tomorrow to send you value. That is awesome, right? That is fantastic. It's like the telephone where you didn't have to wait to go home to make the phone call to find out if your friend was going to meet you tonight for dinner. You have a cell phone, you can call them from anywhere. So it's that kind of opportunity that a peer to peer system opens up for us. And I think it's very valuable and important. I also think it's important that it's decentralized because by being decentralized, nobody can control it, right? Nobody's controlling it and saying you have to follow our specific rules. Everybody is able to leverage the XRP ledger in the way that suits them best as long as they align by the rules, the documented cryptographic code rules that are defined for the XRP ledger. And there's lots of different details. It can go very deep, but distributed and peer-to-peer are two very important characteristics of the XRP ledger and the XRP system. And I think that those, that's my number one, right? Number 6 is going to be the most important, but number 1 is decentralized and it's fast. And it enables, me to do transfer with you, but it also enables corporations, banks, central banks to also do value transfer at the same speed that you and I do value transfer. So that's going to simplify so many different systems. And all you have to do is start looking into the technicalities of how value transfer happens today to start to realize that if there's one ledger instead of multiple ledgers, if there's one ledger to rule them all, things get a lot easier and a lot faster. And then the control mechanisms over it for KYC and anti-money laundering also become a lot easier because the data related to who's sending what to who is carried as part of the data packet as things are moving across the system. So I think it's really cool. So number 2 is Ripple for Good. The fact that, okay, so as we were talking about when we were talking about the XRP ledger, Ripple considers themselves sort of to be a steward. They've been helping to evolve the XRP ledger. They were early adopters of XRP. And based on that, they are trying to fund projects that they think are going to provide good humanitarian value around the globe. So Ripple for Good, and since they have a content author, I thought I'd use their words. So let's just read here. Ripple for Good supports mission-driven organizations and initiatives that with the potential to dramatically accelerate and expand global financial inclusion, right? So minimizing the number of unbanked, people that can't access banking services in lower wealth nations. Okay. Ripple for Good is committed to advancing socially responsible and equitable use of blockchain, cryptocurrency, and related technologies. So they're focused on innovating, leveraging new technologies to extend financial systems, products, and services to unbanked populations globally, and to educate, promote inclusion and equality through research and education in STEM, which is science, technology, electronics, and math, FinTech, which is financial technology, and financial literacy. So making sure that people understand money and debit and credit and all those other pieces that go together. So I'm really excited that they are playing an important role, and that they've taken that role onto themselves to actually create a better world, a more financially stable world for all of us, not just some people in some countries, but really looking at the global community. So I really like that focus because it shows long-term opportunity for me, not only in my country of origin or where I'm living, but around the globe. And I think that's key for long-term expansion and growth. So second to that, they're also partnering with world changing ventures in world class experts. So, Ripple Works brings the practical support entrepreneurs need to scale faster and improve more lives through short term, high impact projects, social venture partners with an experienced startup executive to tackle top operational challenges. So, this page, and this is all available on the Ripple website. ALU partnering with leading growth marketer to scale student applications through digital marketing. um, Here we have Dr. Consulta partnering with veteran CTO to increase product development velocity in Brazil. Um, and Nextleaf partnering with proven CFO to incorporate strategic financial finance to grow its business impact. So it's healthcare and clean tech, and it's serving the global community. So they're not only are they focused on the product that they're delivering or trying to create, which is to streamline and create financial services that enable banks and large organizations to more quickly exchange value. They're also trying to solve problems at a more grassroots level. And they just won my heart. That's all, right? So on to number three. So we'll go to Crunchbase for that. So number three as to why I love and I'm crazy about XRP is because it's so well funded. Oh my goodness. They have raised over $120 million in over 10 rounds of funding. Now, you know, they've been around, like I think their first funding round, and I don't have premium on Crunchbase, but their first funding round down here, right, was the seed round in 2012. And I'm pretty sure that this came from the original founders, right? Money that they put in, family and friends money. But then as we go up and go through the years, we realize, and these are the ones that we're focused on, these angel rounds. So this is when the idea is somewhat formed, and you're now going out to large investment houses and asking for money to actually take your product and get it to a point of launch to increase the velocity at which you can develop your solution. And if I just go forward, because I've already been clicking through here, right? So we're here, and this is an angel round, right? Yeah, angel round, and this was May 14th, 2013. And this is the type of thing that just makes me tingle, because this GV, oh, it's so obscure. So obscure, it doesn't even tell you what it is, right? GV provides seed, venture, and growth stage funding for technology companies, Mountain View, California, United States. So let's click into here. But if we look at this, oh goodness, it's a sub-organization of Alphabet. This is Google Ventures, and Google Ventures is a large investment arm of Google, or Alphabet as they're now called. And they were founded in 2008. They lay out a lot of money into companies that they think are going to actually have great growth opportunities. So Ripple was partnered, they were getting funding from Google at a very early stage in their development. So that means that they have access to some of the best and the brightest developers that Google has, right? Not directly like, hey, just give us your staff, but Google wants it to succeed. And the other investment companies that were there for this seed round also want it to succeed. And we're talking about large organizations that want this to go forward. So they're well funded. They only got, I believe, 4.3 million out of this one, out of this round. Uh, uh, um, I lost it. It was very hard to actually get in because there's so much that's private. You have to pay for it. Pay, pay, pay. And I'm not going to pay. But yeah, 1.4 million is what they raised in this round. But then their next round is right around the corner. And it's pretty much like, okay, we did it, we built it, let's do another round, right? So April 11th, May 14th, same year, and November 12th of the same year. So they've raised $6 million, $6.5 million pretty much in 1 year to get them to their next growth stage. And then they waited until 2015 to go out for more money. And then they have two funding rounds at that point for 28 million each. Okay. So pretty much they have almost $60 million coming in 2015. So they've been in high growth for a long time. The idea that they just started developing this recently it's crazy. But development of large scale solutions, especially ones that could impact you and me and make us lose all of our money, take time. You have to develop these things very slowly because there's a risk that all the money goes missing, right? Like there's a glitch and it's all been erased. Nobody wants to venture on that. So everything needs meticulous, documentation and testing, and at every stage you have to make sure that everything is working properly before you proceed on. So I really like that they are well funded and that they had early funding from Google, because Google has a lot of the best and the brightest, whether it be economists or technology people, engineers. They have a lot of really bright people, and they're not going to go out and start spending money without having those people looking at the solution and looking at the trajectory of where it's going to go in the future. All right, so forward marching. So, but let me tell you what the next one is before I show it to you, because you'll already know. So the next one is, instead of fighting the powers that be, they partner with them and play by the rules. So one thing that I think a lot of people who have been in the space for a while know is that in May of 2015, FinCEN, right, which is the Financial Crimes Enforcement Network, fined Ripple Labs in its first civil enforcement action against a virtual currency exchanger. So I don't want to read too much, but right here, right, the Financial Crimes Enforcement Network, FinCEN, working in coordination with the U.S. Attorney's Office for the Northern District of California, assessed a $700,000 civil money penalty against Ripple Labs, Inc., and its wholly owned XRP2 LLC, formerly known as the XRP Fund 2. Ripple Labs willfully violated several requirements of the Bank Secrecy Act by acting as a money service business and selling its virtual currency known as XRP without registering it with FinCEN, and by failing to implement and maintain an adequate anti-money laundering program designed to protect its products from use by money launderers or terrorist financiers. So in 2015, when they're in the early growth stage, when they're getting all this money to do things, right, all of a sudden they're levied with this fine. So if they weren't thinking of working with the powers that be then, they definitely were after this, right? They got burned. They put their hand on the stove and got burned early. And so, like any good business person, you're like, okay, how do I not encounter this again? How can we partner together to make sure that this doesn't happen again and jeopardize everything that we're building? So, ever since, I think even before this, they have been partnering and working with banks, government agencies, and corporations to better understand what needs to be filled, what requirements, what regulations need to be adhered to enable the Ripple company and for them to allow them to use XRP. So, this sounds like bad news, but sometimes learning a lesson early prevents you a lot of pain in the end. And that's how I view this charge from FinCEN in 2015, is that it actually positioned them to know, like, wow, this could really sting. They could really shut us down, because 700,000 is a lot, but when you're walking around with 16 million, it's not that much. But the fact that the Federal Currency Exchange Network, Financial Crimes Enforcement Network, is coming after you, that is super scary, and that would make you smarten up really fast. And as we go through this, you'll come to understand that they have learned from their lesson and have pivoted into a much more uh, regulatory sensitive position. So let's keep going. So this comes to us from April 2nd, 2014. So we're still talking about old news. We're not talking about new news. There's so much great stuff that's going on now. And if you talk to me, if you're on my channel and, this morning actually, somebody said, well, what about the current news? And I'm like, I don't care about the current news. I already know what's going on. I have no problem with that, right? Because they have all this foundation that defines the course that they're on. They have the relations that they need. They've already learned their lesson, and they have the legal team to help make sure that they navigate the waters of regulation very, very carefully. So central banks and cryptocurrencies, a match made in heaven? Question mark. And this is 2014. And we're in 2019. And this is an interesting article because the discussions around Bitcoin and central banks, I think, is a lot different today. But I'll leave it to you to go with that. So, and a local session, part of the district's Dialogue with the Fed event series, provided a refreshingly smart and objective snapshot of the burgeoning movement with a dose of personal commentary on the future of decentralized currencies and payment protocols. All right, cool. Key takeaways from his presentation titled Bitcoin and Beyond, the Possibilities and the Pitfalls of Virtual Currencies. Bitcoin is a stroke of genius, a monetary system governed by computer algorithms that make low-cost banking available to anyone in the world, and is a digital cash supply free of political manipulation. Okay? Trust is still needed, location of trust is different. Okay, the failure of Mt. Gox. Mt. Gox was an exchange that failed, right, in 2014, I believe. So the failure of Mt. Gox was not a failure of Bitcoin. So even these regulators that and they're talking with government, they realize that the falling down of one corporation does not change the technology. Okay. Um, on whether or not decentralized protocols can be regulated, how does one slay Hydra? Right. So they've been talking about this for a long time. Some people have been talking about it. Some people have been ignoring it. So Janet Yellen and Satoshi Nakamoto, is this a match made in heaven? Um, so not only does Andaflato know his stuff, he's also clearly enthused about the crypto space. The economist's knowledge of the technology monetary intimacies is further evident through a thought-provoking blog post he wrote earlier this year. So we won't go into that too much, but what I want to point out here is obviously it's not the official view of the Fed, said Karen Guilford, who had a stint at the New York Fed and is chief compliance officer at Ripple Labs. So this article, written in 2014, speaks about people who have worked at the Fed, people who understand the regulation, coming and working at Ripple. And if we go back to Crunchbase again, we see that Karen Guilford is still an advisor for Ripple. Actually, she's the chief compliance officer at Ripple. So, this is pretty big because you have somebody that understands regulation, somebody who has the relationships, right? The existing relationships from working there. So she has those relationships. She's able to call or ask questions to people that she used to work side by side with. She is an advisor to Ripple today. So as I was saying before, instead of fighting against the powers that be, instead they've embraced them and they're working with them, and they've brought some of those people on board to help them evolve their process and procedures to make sure that they don't get stuck in any gotchas. So all right, keep going, keep going. There's so much. So before I go to the next page, let me say it again. They're driving adoption on a variety of different fronts. So the three projects that I'm really excited about are the University Blockchain Research Initiative, Xpring, and the Global Solution Margaloop, which is a Microsoft and Ripple partnership. So let's get into that. First one up, University Blockchain Research Initiative. Now, I can never remember this. I need to memorize this because I talk about this all the time, and it's something that I'm really, really excited about. So, Ripple is collaborating with leading universities around the world to support and accelerate academic research, technical development, and innovation in blockchain, cryptocurrency, and digital payment. So, why am I crazy about XRP, right? Sure. They're investing money to advance, technology and understanding about cryptography, blockchain, digital assets, and XRP. You know that these different universities are at least going to have one, two, three classes about working with the XRP ledger. So you're going to have all of these new professionals, right? All these new mathematical cryptographers and computer scientists and engineers that understand how to work with the XRPL and all the different layers that are part of it. Okay. Now, this I find super exciting because I've worked in the startup space. And when you're trying to create, I used to work on an app, right? It was an app, but the idea was that other developers would build APIs. Well, it's really hard to find developers that just want to build APIs that are willing to learn, your specific language and do things your way. Everybody wants a very open API model where they just plug and play. And so, it takes a lot of energy and a lot of like rawing and money put out there just to get people to adopt and to start developing on your platform. Well, they've beat everybody to the punch. They're just going straight to the universities and helping evolve this education at the university level. So by my estimation, we should have a whole new slew of people that are ready to start doing XRP ledger development and work in this space in about 4 years, 3, 4 years. This started last year, so we're at 3 years now. So if I put this right in my head, we're looking at like 2022 where we have like fully qualified people coming out with masters and undergraduates in and with a specialization in cryptography and blockchain technology. Some of these people are already coming out. There's already programs like this, but ones that are going through the Ripple education system, Ripple paid for programs, those are people that are going to be able to work in some of these large megacorps, or they're going to be able to start their own startups. And with all of the work that's being done around micropayments and the interledger protocol and other just innovations that are happening in the XRP ecosystem, this is really awesome, right? That you already have a workforce that already knows how to ramp up and go to work on your stuff, because learning the language and feeling comfortable with it is often the hardest part. So this, I don't know if you can tell, but it makes me very excited. All right, Xpring or Spring, it's just Spring, but the X always confuses me. So Spring, in the world of blockchain and digital assets, there are hundreds, if not thousands, of interesting entrepreneurs flowing into the space. At Ripple, we want to act as a proverbial spring for the most serious ones, making sure that they have the key essentials to grow their business and prosper. That's why today we're announcing X. That's why today we're announcing Spring, not Xpring. Spring. Spring is a new initiative by Ripple that will invest in, incubate, acquire, and provide grants to companies and projects run by proven entrepreneurs. Every entrepreneur will use the digital asset XRP and the XRP Ledger, the open source decentralized technology behind XRP, to solve their customers' problems in a transformative way. So just like the university, I should open that up because I need to memorize that word, right? That little phrase there, the University Blockchain Research Initiative. Just like the University Blockchain Research Initiative, Spring is also trying to embrace entrepreneurs, provide funding if they will leverage and utilize XRP and the XRP Ledger. Now, in the early days of advertising, ad mob, and other tools that Google was trying to work with, um, you actually had these advertising companies paying ad creators, application creators, people who are creating mobile apps. They would pay for the development of it in order for those apps to actually use their ad monetization. Okay, so this isn't new, but the fact that Ripple is putting it to use now in this way is just so forward thinking. They're not being selfish about, no, only us. We're only developing us. Everybody else go away. They're like, no, everybody come to the table. Everybody develop. Everybody start building on this. And that creates an environment where you have a growing of an increasing amount of projects that are coming out. And the reason I bring this up is because when we start talking about leveling the playing field, right? What we were talking about in the beginning with Thomas Friedman, that you know the decentralization of power over technology is spreading around the globe, and Ripple is not centralizing their power in one country. They're spreading it all over the place, right? Their partnerships show that. And where, they just finished expanding the University Blockchain Research Initiative to also be in Japan. So they're not just staying in America and sticking with American universities. They're taking this global, okay? And the same is true with Spring. It's not something that is only available to American companies. There's one company that I know of that is based here, but their development happens in another country. So I think they're getting really creative because they really want the best and the brightest, and they want experienced entrepreneurs working with them to build out the XRP ecosystem. So both the University Blockchain Research Initiative, I'm getting it, and Spring are two things that Ripple has going that they're fostering and they're investing large amounts of money in, that I think are really going to make a difference in the overall development of the XRP ecosystem, and also just make XRP much more sticky. It's going to be harder to get rid of it because you have so many people using it. All right. So, um, what did I say? Global solutions. All right. Yes. So the last one in this group, right? Um, Driving adoption on different fronts. So everybody talks about the value transfer and bank to bank transfers, but there's just so many opportunities globally in when you get like that is a massive opportunity. That's a massive use case. And we'll talk about why I think it's really good that they're focusing on that, but then saying, hey, we have this money, go develop other good things over here. We're not going to get overly involved in it. I think that's really good. And Ripple's partnership with the Gates Foundation, to level the economic playing field for the poor is just one of those things, because here, my life is pretty easy. I live in America. I have a credit card. I have a car. Buses are pretty frequent. I don't have to go and walk and get my water. Air conditioning works, lights, my electricity doesn't go out, and I'm not pretty much waiting to sell something in order to buy something, right? I get a check and I use that over a period, I save some, yada, yada, yada. But many of the world's poor in developing countries, nearly 2 billion, according to the World Bank, struggle to lift themselves out of poverty simply because they don't have a bank account or financial services. I can't even imagine that, right? Imagine getting your check, like somebody gives you a check and you can't cash it, right? And that's one of the problems that even people here in America have, where they end up going to check cashing places because they need the money now. They don't want to wait. They can't wait for the check to clear. So they're willing to pay a premium, up to 30% or more on that check just to have the money right away. Get paid on the 30th, your rent's due on the 1st. You can't wait 7 to 10 business days to get your money. And that's the position that some people in America live through. But if you start thinking about countries that are even poorer than America, then you start realizing that this is a much larger problem and that it would stifle people's financial capabilities. So this is the missing opportunity for financial service industry that has traditionally focused on the rich and middle class. In fact, developing markets represent the next frontier for economic growth. And this Marja Loop, when I heard about what Marja Loop and Ripple are doing, this got me really, really excited. And the reason I say that is because when you're poor, you learn a lot of good things you can do with duct tape and chicken wire, and it's amazing how you can make a automobile run on bubble gum and nylons, right? You hear stories from people that are like, yeah, we just had to keep going, so we used some nylon and did this and that. But when you have money and you can just call a tow truck, you don't have to worry about that. So people in these developing countries are really are really doing a lot of things to make ends meet, and they're very creative about it. And I just want to go to this. This is a very old story. This is from August 2014. But GPS, cell phones help protect African elephants. And I've known about this for, I don't know, we're talking like this is one of the coolest things that I really started looking into in around 2010, right? Because I was like, wow, okay, wow, that is a great use for phones. I didn't think of it. It's cheaper than actually, getting a certified GPS device. You just hang it around their neck and you know where they are. This is completely awesome. So the viral spread of smartphones has jumped a species. African elephants are now also benefiting thanks to new software algorithms developed by research and conservationists. A recent study published by the journal Ecological Applications by researchers of the University of British Columbia, Colorado State University, and Save the Elephants reports on the use of advanced technologies to help monitor and protect African elephants. So again, we're talking about 2014, right? But you get to a tipping point where the technology that should be used for making a phone call and saying, yeah, I'm going to be 15 minutes late, is being used to save elephants, to track elephants, to see what's going on, to see where they're migrating and watch their different patterns. The sophisticated tracking system built by the study's head author, Jake Wall of the University of British Columbia, collects, analyzes, and reports on the movement and activities of nearly 100 African elephants in real time in an effort to both understand the ecological movement and also to protect these threatened animals. So I hope you're getting it. I don't know. This is the way my brain works, right? It's piecing together all these different things. But the fact of the matter is that technology advances in leaps and bounds, right? You get to a certain point, then you have adoption, understanding, and then you're like, oh, but what if we were, and people again innovate on top of it, making it even better, maybe even creating something new out of it. So um, it everything is changing exponentially fast, is what I'm trying to drive home here. So let's see if there's anything else I need to read out of here. So let me just read one last part. Detailed picture. GPS, GSM, and satellite GSM. Gosh, we don't even talk like that anymore. GPS, GSM, and satellite phone technologies are rapidly becoming the pen and paper of animal field biologists, says Wall. The GPS trail of an animal combined with the data from the satellite imagery and the other remote sensors can give us a detailed picture of where the animal is, what it's doing, and what it might be experiencing. So just based off of this, you take this, right? You take the migration of elephants and you start thinking about algorithms to start tracking things using, a triangulating model, right? So I've got this fact, I've got the house over there, I've got the garage here, and the fence over here. So the dog must be somewhere in the middle, right? And that's what I mean by, sort of triangulating, because you have different factors that you can use to start deriving or identifying facts about stuff that exists within that plane. So I hope that makes sense. It's not maybe the best example, but I'm trying to break it down so that it makes sense to people who might not be technical, because the learnings that they have here contribute to learnings in all areas of technology. The algorithms can be used anytime we use GSM, GPS, and satellite communication. And we use satellites all the time, right? I'm not saying that that directly correlates to XRP, but the learnings are, they don't stay in one industry, okay? So we're down to the last one. All right, so the last one here is, oh, it went away. No, it didn't. It's the right one. Our company, enabling the world to move like information does today. And this team, this is like my dream team. So we've got Brad Garlinghouse. Let's go in here, see the full leadership team. Oh, look at that man. Amazing. Brad is the CEO of Ripple and member of the board of directors. Prior to Ripple, Brad served as CEO of the file collaboration service Hightail from 2009 to 2010. He was president of customer applications at AOL. And prior to that, he had various executive positions at Yahoo. All right. So he's been in industry. He's been here forever. He's worked at these massive companies. Some have succeeded, some have failed. and he already has a reputation in Silicon Valley. Let's go down to David Schwartz, who's the chief technology officer at Ripple. So David Schwartz is the chief technology officer at Ripple. David is one of the original architects of the Ripple Consensus Network prior to joining Ripple. David Schwartz was chief technical officer for Webmaster Incorporated, a Santa Clara software developer. He developed encryption cloud storage and enterprise messaging systems for organizations like CNN and the National Security Agency. All right, so again, more skill. Ashish Burla. Ashish is a senior VP of product at Ripple. Has a really nice sweater too. When he first joined in 2003 in the lead of the development of their product suite, Ashish is an industry expert on blockchain and is a frequent contributor, speaker, and advisor on blockchain and cryptocurrencies. Started his career as an entrepreneur 15 years ago in Silicon Valley, where he founded a content management company that he later sold to Thomas Reuter. I I hate names. Names are so hard. All right. So again, more experience. And this woman, this beautiful woman here who wore yellow. I love the color yellow. So Kanisha Van Dyke. Kanisha is Senior VP of Business and Corporate Development at Ripple. Prior to Ripple, Kanisha led global financial services and built a global payment partnership team at Facebook. She has held executive global roles at MasterCard and Citibank, mostly in the international assignments. So I hope you're getting it, that these people just have extensive experience, okay? And we're just talking about the leadership team. We haven't even gone down. And as you go down, you start to realize that this company is hiring from Stanford and Berkeley and all these amazing schools where some of the best and brightest come, and they're coming to join forces with the Ripple team. Coming and recognizing the vision of the future and saying, yeah, I want to contribute to that. And like all of these people out here, they just have such an amazing team. But I want to go down, right, all the way down. See, lots of great people. Lots of great people. I don't want to you need to come out here. So here are some of the investors that have invested in them, right? We've already talked about Google Ventures, but Accenture, Santander, Andreessen Horowitz, CBI Group, CME, I can't read that one, Core Innovation Capital, Seagate, Standard Charter, and again, Google Ventures. I love their logo. I love that logo, right? So you have large organizations that have the time, the staff, and the ability to really delve in and figure out if something is a good investment before they invest. And then you have this amazing board of directors, right? Which is also fully stacked with people who have extensive experience in industry. So that was number 6, but let me just sum them up again. So there's many reasons why I'm totally crazy about XRP and the XRP ecosystem, but 6 that really I think are really creme de la creme are: it's decentralized and it's fast, they're doing good stuff, right? XRP for Good. They're well funded. They've raised over $120 million. They're not running out of cash anytime soon. Instead of fighting with the powers that be and saying, down with the government, instead they're working with them and bringing some of them in-house to make sure that they're following all the rules. They're driving adoption on different fronts, sort of that triad, right? We'll hit it from a bunch of different fronts, and whichever part pops first and wherever we start getting adoption, it's going to lead to adoption in other areas. And it's being headed by an amazing team. And I have such great respect for Brad Garlinghouse. I'll put his picture up again. He's just got a nice beard. Oh, I clicked the wrong button. Up here. Brad Garlinghouse. I totally adore this guy. Like, seriously, he's the creator of the Peanut Butter Manifesto, and he got a lot of flack when he was at Yahoo for creating it, which was just like, why are we spreading ourselves so thin? Why are we trying to be everything to everyone? Can we just do what we do well? We're a search engine. We have core features that we're good at. Can we focus on that? And if you know anything about technology, you know where Yahoo is today. Brad Garlinghouse is he's attributed to being the cause for some layoffs. So he's not the most popular person in Silicon Valley, but having the balls to stand up and say, let's focus on what we do best. Let's put our energy there. and really going after what's going to make the most for Yahoo, the company he worked for at that time, gives me great confidence about what he's doing at Ripple. One, he's focused in on what is most important. And two, he's not afraid of having the difficult conversations and saying, hey, we're doing something wrong. Let's do it a different way. And I see that in all of the leadership that I see at Ripple. I don't see any of them as being spineless people that'll just go along because that's what everybody else is doing. They all come to this with their own level of information, their own knowledge, and their own areas of expertise that just really supercharges the Ripple company and the development that's happening on the XRP ledger. So I hope you better understand why I am crazy about XRP, Ripple, and the XRP ecosystem. I see all of the stuff that is going on in this area as being very important, and I want to plug in and help in that evolution. We have to hit the tipping point where the only way to go is to mass adoption, and we're on our way there. The rollouts that we're seeing, the products that are coming online, the corridors that are opening up, all of them are part of this trend towards the tipping point. But we're not there yet, right? It's sort of like if you think of a bucket that's filling up with water and it's on a table. Actually, I can do it with my cup here, right? So you have, let's see, can you see that? That's a horrible example. Let's use the phone, right? So you have a bottle you have something that's filling up with water, and you even see it there, right? Like it's sort of balancing. Oh, it fell on my keyboard. Ah! But you see how that happens? That's exactly what I'm talking about. That's what we're waiting for. We're waiting for it to hit the tipping point where it falls, right? Where there's nothing else for it to do but fall. And that's the tipping point. You have to get to the point where you have enough attention, enough philosophy, enough people saying, yeah, I like this. And then other people saying, I want to be like them. I want to be like them. Let me in too. That there's nowhere else to go but to tip and to go into mass adoption. So I'm really, really excited. I'm excited. I've been very excited ever since I read Thomas Friedman's book in early 2007, 2006, 2007. I've been excited about what is going on in the global community, about how the world is changing and trying to be a part of that. And what I see happening in the digital asset space is just supercharging that. And I'm excited about what Ripple and what we're doing with the XRP Ledger, because I think it's going to create a much better global community and help us all just be able to co-create more, better, and in greater harmony. So I really want to say thank you for watching my video. I think it was probably long, but you know what? I rambled on. And if you choose not to watch it, then that's fine too, because yeah, I'm a new content creator. So I hope I hope you'll subscribe, and I hope you'll check back for more information. If there's anything I could have done better to make this video more enjoyable for you, please include it in the comments. I'm really all about learning. I don't know if you can notice that. But yes, I'd love to learn and improve, and my goal is to really help people understand XRP, understand digital assets, so that they don't get left behind. So with that, I am over and out. Thank you so much for joining me. Have a good one. Bye.